Hello, we are here today, February 9th, 2019, at Nova Southeastern University, Orlando, to talk with our 59th president of the Florida Association of School Psychologists, Ms. Lisa Vivo. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Denise.
Lisa, what was the year of your presidency?
It was 2015-2016.
So, another event happened during your first board meeting that kind of is consistent with being here today. Do you want to tell us about that?
So I had my first board meeting here at Nova Southeastern University in Orlando.
Well, welcome back.
Yes, it feels like home.
Oh, good. Well, I remember a very exciting event that took place during your inauguration weekend. Would you be willing to share that?
Yes, so I had been planning the FASP conference for 2015, and I also was planning my wedding for the same weekend. And so on Friday of the conference, I actually got married at the Omni during the conference, and I had such great support from the conference committee. They basically told me that everything had been handled and that I could just go up to my room and get ready for my wedding. So that's what we did, and we had a great evening, and we got to spend time with family, had dinner at Trevi's, which is there at the Omni. It's one of the restaurants. And so I'll always have FASP in my heart, especially when the annual conference comes around. So.
Well, you may be the only president to have gotten married at FASP, but it's certainly possible that someone else might think it's a great idea too and follow suit. Now, before we hear about your actual tenure as the 59th FASP president, could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now?
Sure. So I am a school psychologist working in Osceola County, which covers the cities of Kissimmee, Florida, St. Cloud, and Poinciana. And I also do some private practice, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and I'm the public and media relations for FASP.
That's pretty important.
Of that committee.
How do you like that?
It's great.
Oh,
I get
good.
to play around a little bit with social media. I'm learning a lot about social media, and it's really fun. I get to make a lot of visuals and resources for school psychologists in the state. So that's
wonderful.
Always fun.
Now, could you tell us what were some of the major events or accomplishments that took place under your leadership as FASP president?
Okay. I think that one of the accomplishments one of the things that were my goals for my presidency was to increase the value of FASP membership, and that came from looking at data that we had collected. I want to say it was the year before we had looked at membership data, and we were seeing that we had a lot of engagement with student members, early career professionals, so school psychologists within their first or second year of practice, and we had a lot of engagement from those who had retired from the field. But we had this huge gap of engagement from practitioners who had been practicing just beyond that first or 2-year mark, so and veterans. So we wanted to bring in their participation more, and we started brainstorming during my presidency how we could do that. One of the things that we heard members saying was that they wanted a way to collaborate together beyond conferences, beyond the in-person meetings. And so that's when the members only area of the website of FASP.org was born, and that did include message boards. And so we've been using those a lot more often, and they've been picking up their use, and it's a great way for people to communicate with each other and to also get in touch with experts in the field. We have the FASP board monitors the message boards, and so you might have the school neuropsychology chairperson respond to your question, or the private practice committee chairperson might respond to a question. So we thought that was a good way too to help bring in some communication between board members and members. So what else? We also started to use social media a lot more and helping people connect through there. And over the past couple of years, I think we've seen a lot more engagement on our social media, particularly Facebook. And so that has been really refreshing to be able to communicate more with our members. And then one of the last things that we heard a lot of people, a lot of members that were wanting fresher and more practical ideas being delivered through professional development events. And so I remember Nikki Sutton was the president-elect while I was president, and she came up with this really cool idea to do something like TED Talks during the conference, and we called it FASP Talks, and we got to bring on stage a few practitioners that got to do just brief presentations about different experiences that they had had. And one of them was one of the responders to the Pulse shooting in Orlando. So we got to hear her story. We got to hear from another one about how to support our LGBTQ populations in schools. And then we also got to hear from a practitioner who specialized in looking at suspension rates and alternatives to out-of-school suspension. So all very interesting, and I think all really practical, which was what a lot of people were looking for. And so we want to continue entertaining those kinds of ideas. And so anytime that members or non-members can communicate with the board, either through a Facebook message or on the message boards or an email or in person to share ideas about what they want to see, that's really important for us to bring those to life. So I'm trying to think of what else. We released a couple papers during my presidency, and one of those was the School to Prison Pipeline position statement, which goes back to the out-of-school suspensions. And a lot of research had been showing that there were alternatives and how out-of-school suspension could affect student achievement. And that paper really made that link. So if anyone hasn't seen it, I invite you to look at it on the FASP website, and it's a good one. It really hit home for a lot of us.
It is very important, and it's a discussion that needs to be continued.
Right.
Well, those sound very exciting. I do remember those FASP talks that you mentioned, and I personally loved them. I thought they were excellent. Were there any challenges that you faced during your tenure as FASP president?
One of the events that occurred during my presidency was the Pulse shooting in Orlando. And I was born and raised in Orlando. So I had to, as president, almost go through that experience personally and experience the ripple effect as it affected people in my family, friends, the community. But then I also had to get into president mode, which I'm really grateful for the support that NASP gave me and that the FASP advisory committee gave me. So as president, you get access to a small group of seasoned, veteran school psychologists that have been on the board for a very long time and are just a wealth of wisdom and knowledge. And as soon as I got news of the event, I went to that advisory committee for help on what our response should be, publicly, but also practically. Like, how were we gonna go support this community in Orlando? And then I also was connected to NASP. NASP communicated very quickly with me with resources. One of our goals was to provide resources to the community. We wanted parents and educators and schools to have the tools that they needed to have those tough conversations with their kids. And then also to connect them to more resources if those conversations weren't enough. So we just wanted to be supportive of Central Florida while they were going through the healing process of that. So besides that, I think one other challenge that we've continued to work on is the shortage of school psychologists in Florida. It's something that we've been looking at, trying to find creative solutions for a couple years now. And again, NASP has been a great resource. When you become president, you get to go to some leadership seminars at the NASP convention that teach you a lot about how organizations run, the financial side, the leadership pieces. But one of the bigger topics that year was the shortage across the nation, and brainstorming some ideas to find solutions to that. And sometimes that means calling on to other states who have the opposite problem, which is some states have shortages of jobs. So tons of school psychologists graduating, and they are having a hard time matching to a job. So, just kind of matching them to jobs here whenever possible, some recruitment efforts. And so, but it continues to be a challenge that we continue to brainstorm and find creative solutions for.
Well, thank you for that. Now, you had mentioned the Pulse shootings. Were there any other either environmental, political, or even personal influences that occurred during your presidency that you'd feel comfortable sharing?
Sure. I think that I got a lot of support from my mentors. I really relied on having good mentors during my presidency, and I got a lot of really good family support, which I think also kind of helped me feel more confident in what I was doing. I think, the youngest president in FASP history. I was 29 when I took office, so I didn't come in with a ton of leadership experience. I had been on the board, prior in different capacities. I had served as diversity chair, conference co-chair, and registrar, so I got to see some of the behind the scenes workings of FASP, and I did get to observe and learn there, but I had never been in this leadership type of position. So I really relied on using all of my resources, and I'm so grateful to have had various really good mentors and people that just I could go to and confide in, and that provided some guidance along the way.
Well, that certainly worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say that being the FASP president has meant to you personally?
Mm-hmm. Well, to piggyback on what I was just saying, not having that leadership experience, I think that it meant going beyond my comfort zone, which you have to do sometimes if you want to grow, and grow I did. I definitely feel that I grew not only as a leader, but also just in my personal life. A better communicator, a better just friend, a better manager of things in my school, within my work as a school psychologist. I now I use a lot of those leadership skills that I learned through FASP, how to collaborate better, how to speak up when I need to advocate, and how to do that. You really do learn a lot through getting into these leadership roles, and I'm really grateful for all the growth that I've been able to make through my experience with FASP. I think it's made me a better school psychologist. And of course, I got to travel. That's been fun. And through some of that travel, I got to learn about advocacy. So part of the travel included going to NASP's Advocacy Institute, and that was eye-opening for me and has now made me, I think, a lifelong advocate in the legislative world. I was never interested. I didn't really understand it, previously. So having spent a a couple of days at that institute and working with different board members, our FASP lobbyists, and just, it makes you passionate, and it also teaches you how to go about being a good advocate, who to contact. And so I've actually been in contact with some of my representatives, and it's fun. They're great discussions. We both have, on both sides of the conversation, we both have a lot to learn from each other, and I think that those conversations are really important, and I encourage people to do the same, to communicate with their legislators. And you know, this country was built on being able to represent what your needs are, you know, and so if you don't do that, then they won't hear it. So it's really important to have those conversations, and they're not as intimidating as some people may think, you know, so.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to impart to us as a former FASP president?
I want people to understand that being on the board is really fun, and that I think there's a lot of positives that come out of it. I know that before I was on the board, it was almost intimidating, you know, but it's such a great opportunity to grow. And you only make a year commitment most of the time. Most positions are only a year commitment, so if you don't like it, you don't have to come back. But you know, we hope you stick around. It's really fun. You get to meet really cool people. I've made such good friends being part of the FASP board, and even volunteering at FASP conferences is a great way to get involved. And then having been on the side of president, one of the easiest ways to get involved is to experience the behind the scenes as a volunteer at one of the conferences, but also once you're ready to dive in, to communicate your email that president-elect and let them know that you would love to serve on their board when they become president. Because when you're president-elect, you're making that decision about who is going to encompass your board and where are everybody's skills going to fit in with what your vision is for FASP. And once you communicate your desire to be involved and, you know, how you might be able to contribute, you know, do you have skills in technology? You know, are you great with graphics? Are you great with advocacy? You know, what are the things that you're into and that you feel like you'd like to grow in and that you're good at? And those are the ways that FASP can really benefit. And in the end, the families of Florida, the students, schools, they all win when you become a part of it. So.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa Vivo, 59th president of the Florida Association of School Psychologists.